Did you click the follow through link? For some reason, do you need to do any external?
Where's it going? Where's it going?
Good question. That's promising.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh, the building is cleared. Okay, I'm going to talk today about a pilot project that was implemented at UNSW Australia at the beginning of 2014. So just to give you some context, I'm from the School of Public Health and Community Medicine at UNSW, one of 5 schools within the Faculty of Medicine. We offer a diverse range of postgraduate programmes and courses in public health, international public health and health service management. We have over 600 students enrolled within the master's programmes in the school, and upwards of 150 PhD students, including the professional doctorate in public health. We also have a large number of students enrolled in other courses in the school, including graduate diplomas, graduate certificates, and non-award audit courses. We run over 3 semesters, obviously including summer school. And the staff in the school also contribute significantly to the undergraduate medicine programme. The faculty itself, in terms of medicine, has a reputation for innovative and practice-based health professional education, and we've been delivering flexibly on campus and to external students using online resources for many years now. And overall, the school and the faculty do have a culture and a commitment to continuous improvement in course design. We do use innovative approaches to education and always to try to enhance the student learning experience. So we identified a problem with the ability of our casual and sessional staff to give feedback. So why did we think that we should focus on this element of the sessional role? Well, it was basically because we know that feedback is a really powerful and influential influence on the learning process, and it's known that if it's delivered correctly and effectively, it can really enhance the marks that students can achieve. But what the literature shows is that there's been very little attention given to staff development in this area, and how we can improve their capability to give feedback that's very useful, and as Mike said this morning, this feedback forward that's usable by students and actually can inform their future work. And unfortunately, though, the literature also shows that practices are often deficient, and this is a largely overseen or under-focused area in most institutions, and unfortunately I have to say that UNSW is one of those institutions. So we know that feedback is universally recognised as an indicator of quality learning and teaching, and what UNSW has found is that we do have lower than national average performance on data such as the CEQ, CAT-I and ISB data in terms of feedback performance. And we also lag behind similar institutions in the group of 8 and other institutions in Australia. So that was sort of the general institutional area where we know that feedback is deficient. In the School of Public Health, we actually did our own assessment project in 2012. And as you can see from this, about 50%, just over 50%, moderately agreed or strongly agreed, that the feedback was useful and constructive. So that gives a lot of leeway for improving our practices. And also this was from the School of Public Health as well. This is showing how when we asked students whether they thought that the feedback they got across markers was consistent, there was a lot of room there again for improvement in terms of consistency. So the problem as well is that, as the previous speaker said, you know, sessional staff, they do come from a variety of backgrounds, they have a variety of qualifications and tutoring experience, and that sort of makes it difficult to know, you know, how good they can mark, what their feedback's like. So we need to train them to do that, to ensure that they're hitting a ballpark in terms of where they should be. And again, as the previous speaker said, postgraduate assessments are largely subjective. We give assessments that are 3,500 word essays. They're quite large pieces of work. The students are postgraduates, so they're all health professionals, the doctors, nurses, allied health workers. They know what they're talking about. So to bring a sessional tutor in to mark that work without any experience and without any support, it's not fair to them, and it's not fair to the students who are paying money to come and do our courses. So we found that when we looked at this, we found there was huge variability across markers, you know, and we knew that this was an area where we need to focus some resources and do something about it. So what did we do? Well, we implemented this small-scale pilot project at the beginning of this year, and it was a project that was to develop capabilities in sessional tutors to provide effective, timely, constructive feedback that was usable by students. And it also was, not only was it to do that, but it was also to support tutors as they were faced with these large assessments with postgraduate students who can be very critical and very aggressive if they're not happy with what they're getting. So we chose to implement it in one of our core courses, Foundations in Public Health. It's a large course which has probably upwards of 350 postgraduate students that come from, they're international, local students, there's a broad spectrum. It actually runs for 12 weeks, but I put 13 because we had a bank holiday week that Monday this year, so it was 13 weeks. There's 6 tutors employed in this course, and there's 3 conveners that run the course because there's so many students. It's delivered concurrently online and on campus. So we developed this programme of support and development, and we used a number of tailored strategies that we threw at this. One of them was a really extensive tutor guide, which had all details about the course, the types of assessments, large amounts of information about reflective and critical essays, and how they would be different to marking an objective piece of work and all those types of things. We also had a number of online resources, so we had marking rubrics, we had model answers, we also had previously marked scripts that had been anonymised that we'd had permission from students to use for developmental purposes. We also had a set of standardised quick marks which we used in GradeMark, and these were previously constructed feedback answers that were based on the assessment rubric and the assessment criteria, and they were written to best practice in terms of feedback. So we ensured that each one was actually constructive, that the student could use something from it to enhance their work in future assessments. And also, the reason we wanted to standardise the quick marks is because it would be easier for us to map in a later phase if we chose to do any learning analytics or anything like that using this format. I don't know how many of you use GradeMark. Do any of you use GradeMark? Yeah. Well, you'll know how it works then. You can actually tailor the comments, but the actual comments were already written. If they just used those, that was good feedback in practice. So if they wanted to add anything else, that was fine. We also did extensive marking, moderation and review through the mentoring that we had. So there was 3 conveners. We each mentored 2 sessional staff each, and we worked out a process where they did some marking and then submitted it to us. We marked blank scripts of the same student work, and then we compared and we talked about it and discussed why that might be the case. And we had regular teleconferences to sort of minimise the effect of students of sessional staff either being at work and doing this as an added on sort of role, or because they were working further away and couldn't get to any meetings. So we held teleconferences during lunch hours, and we had them fortnightly, and it was an opportunity for us to talk about any assessments that were coming up, to talk about any tutorial activities that were causing any problems, for tutors to raise any issues with us, and it just kept that dialogue going. And also, in addition to that, they had the mentoring, which was, as I said, there was 2 sessional staff to each convener, and we worked really closely with those staff members to, you know, support them and to develop their skills. So we did an evaluation on this pilot project, and we did it with the students, with the tutors, and also as conveners we actually sat down and talked about it. And overall, all the feedback we got was very, very positive. The way we gauged it as well was we got far less requests for remarks, we got far less requests for more feedback on individual pieces of work, and we got it was just the tutors felt so much more support, that they felt that they were happier doing their role and able to give feedback and interact with students in a much more professional way, because they felt so confident in the skills that they had. So the one problem with it was we did it with 6 tutors. The reach was really poor, and it was now how could we widen it to make sure that all tutors within the school had the access to this type of provision, to make sure that they were all getting the development that they needed. So what we've actually done is we've been awarded a UNSW Learning and Teaching Innovation Grant, and what we're doing is we're developing a dedicated professional development learning space in Moodle. And what we're going to do is we will put all the aspects, so all the tutor guide, the rubrics, the model answers, all those type of paper-based resources will go online, as well as it will be a resource repository where there will be literature on feedback and best practice with feedback, those types of things. And it will be a self-paced learning module. So any tutor within the school, our tutors in the pilot project got a certificate to say that they'd done the programme and they had, you know, achieved this level of feedback giving. All tutors in the school will be expected to do this module, not just for work in the school, but they'll get a certificate and they will be able to show that anywhere, to say, I've done this professional development, I understand what good feedback is, what constitutes good feedback, what students need to be able to do with the feedback that we give them, because just saying good point is not giving them anything to work with at all. So they'll be doing this interactive self-paced online module. It will be a media-rich learning space, so it will be very self-paced, it will be engaging. We're going to use a lot of technology and interactive tools in it to make it appealing, and it will be very personalised in terms of we'll be using the Moodle lesson tool to ensure that if tutors show competencies in certain elements within the module, they will skip certain lessons and quizzes and tests that they have to do. So these are the types of things we're going to throw at it. There's quite a lot there, but we've got a dedicated educational designer that's working on this module with a hope that when it's up and running, it will be actually be able to be modified quite easily for use in other schools and other faculties throughout the university. And this is the technical bit, I'll just have to read this bit. So it's going to be written up as hang on. Captivate introduces the modules and it will be published as a SCORN package. I don't know what that is, but I'm sure you guys know what that is. Yeah, is it good? Is it? I thought, yeah, they said it was good. Say that, they'll like that. That's what they said. So, yeah, so that's how it's going to be worked. And then, as I said, we're going to use this Moodle lesson tool, which is very much learner-directed where they go. So depending on competency, because as I said before, some of our sessional staff are very, very experienced. They've been with us a long time. Others aren't so experienced. So it's just trying to get everyone to that same level of capability so that when we do put out marking across a heap of tutors, we know that our students are getting something that's consistent when it goes back. And you never get that, well, she's a harsh marker and she's not a harsh marker, because there should be that equity across the board. Okay, I think that's about it. There's just a few things to acknowledge there. Joanne Travaglia, who's the Director of Summer Schools, she was a co-author of this presentation, and of course Xanthi Lawson, who is a fabulous educational designer in the School of Public Health, and then the UNSW Learning and Teaching Unit and the Innovation Grant Project team. Okay, thank you. Any questions? Oh, yeah, I know, I'm quick.
That's a fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
Often when I'm talking to academics about using comment banks that are being created and have got best practice, not just what the problem is, but why it is, what to do, and an invitation to really use this in the next piece of assessment, often the academics say, but students will hate getting the same comment. Multiple students will hate getting the same comment. But actually it is good for students because it gives them confidence that the assessment process is an open and transparent and consistent way. And it helps students buying into assessment as a fair thing rather than the luck of the draw. The other thing that's remarkably ironic about feedback in universities is the very most marginalised staff member gets to do, they are the people that have to do the feedback. We should have our most sparkling teachers there doing that because that is absolutely critical for success and retention. And we put the worst paid, most marginalised contract workers. Yeah, so fantastic.
I mean, it's great because the speaker before me, I'm sorry, I don't know what her name was, sorry. But she was saying, you know, I think what we're actually doing here is we're not only developing capability, but we're also putting our staff feel valued. They feel very lucky to have gone through this programme and the fact that they are supported, you know, and I think that goes a long way. You know, when there are there's always going to be those grumbles about sessional roles. I've done sessional roles. You know, when I was doing my PhD, I did sessional roles. And I think, yeah, you know, a lot of people do, and you do feel sort of like that. But at least with this, it's not only doing that professional development, it is giving them that sense that, yes, you are valuable and we are willing to invest in you know, as a staff member. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, so when you use this system, the marker, are they identified or they're not?
Look, we always encourage our markers to identify themselves because obviously it's easier for students then to come back if they need to. Yeah, so we encourage them to identify themselves and normally they do, yes, because we give the standardised feedback marking comments, but also as an overall, when they've finished and you give them, you know, you give them pass, a credit, distinction, high distinction, we tend to put that at the beginning of the essay with an overall comment there. So, and that's personalised to the marker, feeding back to that student, you know, like saying, you know, this would have been if you'd done this, this and this or whatever, you know, so, and it's just better to put your name on that, I think, so that it's more personalised. Thank you. Probably not initially. I mean, we're still building this module now, and that will just be for the School of Public Health initially while we repilot it, I suppose. And then it will be made available to the wider UNSW, staff, but I'm not sure about beyond that. I mean, that's something that UNSW will decide, I'm sure.
No, thank you for the references as well.
Yeah, thank you.
UC would be very keen to work with you on this.
Now's the time to start talking about fees and commissions.
I know, I know.
You've got to try.
Of course you do.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody's open to collaboration. It's the name of the game in academia, isn't it? But we're all quite passionate about it. I think that's why Kath and I were quite strong with the questioning in the last speaker, because we are quite passionate about treating our sessional staff really well and making them feel very valued.
Okay, please join me in thanking Leslie.
Thank you.
Send me a copy. I just put in for UNSW innovation grant for here, for school business here in camp, to do basically the same thing, but for online distance teaching.
Yeah.
So probably an opportunity to share some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to do something now?
Fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
I'm currently out at UC. Our DVCE, Nick Klum, I'm glad to say that he's actually putting some resources behind assessment as a retention strategy.
Yeah.
Now, before that, and you don't need to repeat this, there's been a lot of statements, but it's just been, fluff and air. But we're actually now seriously doing this.
Yeah.
So I'm very pleased about that. The other thing is I've actually written a piece of software to help people give feedback. It's an add into Microsoft Word, and basically I've been an academic most of my life, so basically just makes it easier to use use comments within Word and auto text entry, and then to move those between computers to make it easier to reuse those comments in future, to make it easier to do audio comments within Word, to make it easier to have rubrics within Word that you can click on and it highlights cells and does all of the calculations.
It's brilliant for the learning analytics.
Yeah, well, of course you can do all of that stuff in Excel, but to say to a sessional staff member that's getting paid $28 an hour, 2,000 words, 2,000 word assignments per hour, just go into Excel and do this and do that and do that. You've got to be a freaking joke.
I know. We don't want to do that, do we, really?
Yeah,
I don't like it, but that's...
So I'd be really interested in your comments on that tool.
Okay.
I'm currently selling that and making money out of it, but I'm more than happy to. There's a
That'd
6 month.
Brilliant.
There's a 6 month trial for any institution that wants to use it.
We should trial that. We could probably even do something with it. Definitely within this, it's something we could think about. Depending on cost, something we could think about putting into the module even.
Yeah. My other comment about we'd be really happy to work with you. UC probably doesn't have a lot to put into the pie.
Everybody has something to contribute, I think.
Okay.
Even if it's a different perspective, some experience, something like
or
that.
Or just testing it in a different environment.
Exactly.
I'd be, if there was any way that we could do some sort of institutional sort of partnering, because UC is now at the stage where it realises it needs to do something serious and quickly, because we've got so many sessional markers, and without that happening, the poor markers are left to hang out to dry. Because they're not given any support when there's any sort of session.
There isn't. And the online stuff, it's interesting
and they're being
as well.
taught to become more and more and more timid, provide blancmange feedback. One of the things I put in the software is that I was talking to this associate dean, and she says quite often she'll have students knocking on her door at 5, just before the exam, saying, "Could you please help me? All of my comments in this assignment are vaguely positive, tick, well done, but it's a fail. Could you please help me to interpret?"
Yeah.
And the poor buggers
we're getting the same.
they're put in the situation of trying to defend the indefensible. So one of the things that I did in the software is you can give it a folder of 100 or 1,000 assignments, and it will go through all of them, pulling out all of the comments, pulling out the mark, pulling out the tutor's name, and then just putting it in a table that you can scan through.
Brilliant.
And I don't know how USQ is actually, if they're actually using that to do some sort of quality control, but you've got the option to do that. And as you said, if you've got standardised comments, you can actually start to do some analysis.
Which is what we want to do, Oh yeah, I'll send you an email when I get back to the office, and we'll just explore what we can do.
I'm part of a member of the team that has looked at this early assessment for retention, but so I'm hoping that we will sort of be able to do something, but it would make it so much easier for us if we could partner with someone else.
As I say, we're all open to collaboration and sharing. What's the point in having it if it's not doing any good, So it's not that it wouldn't be for me saying, "Oh no, you can't share it, you can't have it," So there'll be something we can do, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, that would be great.
Yeah.
The other thing that I've been thinking about is within the reusable comments, putting a link in those so the student can actually get that comment and then click a link. It then goes back to a server which records that this particular comment was read. Or the student might say, "This was really useful," or "Gee, I don't quite know what that means." So the academic or the markers can actually look at that to see that, students are reading my comment.
They are finding these particular ones really useful.
Yeah. Or, "Gee, there's a lot of comments here. Maybe it's not the students, maybe it's my course." The other thing that we've done is we've just done a survey asking students roughly how much time do you spend reading your comments, and students are saying between 10 and 15 minutes. And then we asked the same question of the markers. How much time do you think students spend reading your comments? And the markers say between 2 and 5 minutes. How important is the mark? The markers think the mark is really important, the comments are less important.
Yeah.
The students think the mark is here and the comments are there.
Yeah.
So,
You see, we got the markers that we were using. They were very positive. They were always very encouraging with the feedback, but didn't actually say anything in terms of
actionable.
This is what you need to do to get you to the next. This is where It's just like they'd put things like if there was an assumption in the work, because I say it's long essays, and there might be a few assumptions. They just put reference needed. Yeah. Instead of putting something like, you need to base it in the academic literature, so it's evidence-based, and it's not just an opinion.
Why is a reference needed? Here's a link to our website where we talk about different referencing styles.
Yeah.